Hello and welcome to our EV meeting. Here you can see who is presenting tonight. It's a very long presentation or meeting, so if you don't want to watch the whole thing or listen to it, just pick out what you want to look and listen to.
Okay, so I guess our first speaker is Jennifer Venema from the city of Sacramento. And I'll hand it over to you. Well, they caught you with your mouth. See, I should be a waiter.
Problem. Excuse me, I didn't expect you in 5 minutes. Just kidding. I totally get it. Well, thank you for having me tonight. So I'm Jennifer Venema. I work for the city of Sacramento on a number of programs and initiatives. Thank you so much for asking me to share an update tonight. Happy to tell a little about what we've been up to at the city and some of the exciting things we hope you can see and benefit from locally. So it looks like they're just pulling up my slides here. In terms of a big recap about what the city's been up to, we've been laying a lot of the foundation over the past year. In late December, the City Council adopted our first electric vehicle strategy, establishing a lot of ambitious goals and targets for accessible and affordable zero-emission mobility, really identifying the city's role. And so what we've been doing the last year is getting a lot of those key actions done to open up for investment in creative programs. So next slide, please. Really chief amongst the big programs that we've all been hearing a lot about is the exciting programs launching through Electrify America's efforts. They are investing $44 million in Sacramento. They've initiated that investment, and it's to do several things, primarily to launch transformational set of programs. So there's new car share programs that are launching here. They're developing new high-power infrastructure, and they're also supporting zero-emission vehicle shuttles and buses that we will be able to use throughout the city of Sacramento and connecting you to UC Davis. Now, in terms of the near term, the city's role, we're very focused on the car share programs, specifically because some of the car share programs need special access to the right of way, where they park on the curb. And so what you see on the left is a map of the proposed zone for 260 electric vehicles that Gig Car Share will be launching. We expect that to launch by spring of next year. And we created a whole new permit process, a new fee structure so they can do that. This will be like the car equivalent of Jump Bike Share, where you can use an app to access any EV in this program you find on the street, which is already being used. Reserve it, pick it up, and go. And leave it within the zone you see on the map, which still has to be finalized. The other program which is launching is car share that's operated by another provider, Envoy. You can see them on my left, your right. And they're going into primarily multifamily apartments, and it's a residential-based car share program. So these are cars that will not be available to the public. These are going to be e-golfs, and the resident of that complex will be able to rent, use the car, and they return it when they rent it. Next slide, please. So we're very excited that we had the first of our launch events just this month on November 1st at Whispering Pines Apartment Complex in Meadowview. You can see some pictures from the event. We had the mayor, we had some council members. There's just real excitement to finally see one of these programs launching. So this is a site that's being developed through Envoy's car share program, which will be accessible to tenants of that property. You can see a picture of the level 2 charging infrastructure installed through the program and one of the e-golfs that will be available for rent. And I should also note that because there's so much happening locally, we're trying to find ways to communicate. So the messaging that Electrify America is using is what we're calling here Sac to Zero. And that term is meant to really cover the whole spectrum of EV cars to zero zero emission mobility through bike share to other sorts of clean and affordable transportation, whether that's regional transit that's operating it or others. So expect to see more. This was just the first launch on November 1st, and we are building up for, again, bigger program launches in early 2019 by Q1. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, City, we've been really focused on what we need to do to remove barriers and create access to the right-of-way. So what I was just talking about touched on car share. What you'll also see is, here's a diagram of all the ways we've been thinking about how we control the right-of-way. So one way we can provide parking for car share for any member of the public to use, eliminating the need for people to own cars, helping to make transit, other non-vehicular trips more feasible. What we're also looking at is how to use the right-of-way to provide for curbside EV charging. So literally providing the EVSC right on the curb so folks that park there can access it. Really looking here to increase awareness, increase charge points, but also providing access for those who maybe don't have their own dedicated charging off street, and incentivize maybe passenger trips or commuters or others who just need the infrastructure. Next slide. This is some pictures of our first curbside pilot. We are working with EVgo, as many of you probably heard me share before. They are putting in 6 high-powered chargers at Southside Park. Those are going to be 150 kilowatt. They should be in operation by early 2019. On the right, you can see construction and process. There's a construction site there now, and we're very excited for this first curbside project to be completed. We are working from this to create a way to get more of these on the street. And I think just the one recap from EVgo's project, what we've learned is even when you have an expert partner working with you, even when the city can provide the land, it's still really hard to put infrastructure in the right of way. There's so many complications from trees to other utilities. So what we're looking to do for our next phase is to release a request for proposals to solicit proposals from vendors looking to develop a smaller number of curbside chargers in the near term with a plan to scale up over the long term based on those lessons learned. We are working to release that RFP by next month, and from there, working to eagerly ramp up and get more infrastructure on the street, coming to a curb near you. And I believe with that, takes me to the last update I wanted to share. As I noted before, the city was the recipient of a grant from the California Energy Commission. So this is helping us to do more detailed EV planning, to develop some fundable project ideas, and to also do more outreach. Specifically with a focus on low-income and disadvantaged communities that you can see on the map here. What we really have seen today is a lot of the infrastructure is in downtown, where a lot of our workplaces are. We're also looking at ways to increase access citywide. So that's another exciting project. We have one of our partners in the room from the consult team working on that with GPS Associates here. And looking forward to more data, more information, and more ways that the city can move forward to really expedite this stuff. As part of it, we're going to be looking at building codes. We'll be looking at a host of other issues and ways we can incentivize and further educate developers to homeowners and anyone trying to provide and to get access to the infrastructure. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you again, and I'd be happy to answer questions now or later.
We've got time for about 5 minutes of questions. Take a couple of breaks. Are the e-golfs being provided as part of the Volkswagen settlement?
Are the e-golfs or any part of that program being provided under the Volkswagen diesel settlement monies?
Yeah, good question. So all of the Electrify America programs in Sacramento are being launched under, others could maybe speak to it better, but it is a result of the settlement. It's their investment, and this is specifically their Green City program. They chose Sacramento for that. All right. Any other questions?
Hi, what's the thinking on the streets where we have bike lane and then you have the protected bike lane? Is there any possibility of putting working charging infrastructure in there, or are these streets just spread out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are taking a strategic approach, and with our curbside program, our guiding principle is that we don't want to conflict with active transportation investments. So on the street where there's parking protected bike lane going in, and the feedback from our team is it's complicated enough, let's not mess it up even further or confuse drivers. So we're mostly avoiding those streets. And what we're doing right now is mapping sort of opportunity zones based on parking time limits and other infrastructure in the area. So it's a good question. We're trying to avoid those streets.
One more question in the back.
You can hear me, can you? Yes. If you could just describe the other car sharing program, or the gig program, how many vehicles, how that works in comparison to the program?
Absolutely. So the other program that GIG is going to operate, GIG is, you should know, a subsidiary of AAA, so it is a non-profit entity, and theirs is a free-floating car share model, as I said. So it's going to have 260 Chevy Bolts, and those will be available on city streets. You can drive it outside of the zone on the map that I showed, but you just be paying. You have to end the reservation inside the home zone. And GIG has operated free-floating car share throughout the Bay Area, but this is the first time they're doing it with electric vehicles. We're very excited. This is, you can't quote me on it, we don't exactly know if this is true, but our understanding is this is the largest rollout of a free-floating EV car share program. So that's a lot of qualifiers, but it's a lot of EVs through a shared mobility approach.
So I don't know exactly what you mean by free floating, but where do I pick up the car for this car share program? Where do I have to, do I bring it back to the same place?
Yeah, good question. So the free floating concept is very similar to the jump bikes. It's wherever you see a car, you can go onto your app and see if someone's already reserved it or not. And you essentially use your app to see where the cars are, pick one, reserve it, and it's locked for your use. You can get up, drive it. I don't remember the exact rate. I believe it comes to about $9 per hour, so it's competitive with a TNC, Uber, or Lyft ride. And you pick it up and you can drop it anywhere in the zone. And they have a lot of advanced technology which will indicate, when you're in the zone, or they may incentivize you dropping the car at the charging point and leaving it plugged in, because they're going to have to charge the vehicles as well.
Drop it at any parking space I can drop it off at?
Yeah, so good clarification. It would be at most on-street parking spaces with few exceptions. So you can't park in a red zone, you can't park in other illegal areas. You still have to abide by street sweeping. And GIG will charge your rate to recover the cost of parking, but you, the customer, when you end your reservation, you don't have to worry about paying the meter. GIG works that out with the city. All right, well, thank you again.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you. Okay, so our next speaker, I believe, is Jae Park, and Renner Ridge, is that right? Okay, he's going to talk to us about recycling batteries. That's an important point, so turn it over to Jae.
Thank you very much. My name is Jae W Park. I'm a professor at UC Davis. I came to Davis in 2008 and have been performing researches on batteries and energy storage systems. And after years of research with my postdocs and graduate students, I decided to start a company to commercialize our ideas. So the company name is Renner Ridge. It's a renewable energy storage. Okay, let's go next page. It's one page before actually. This is second page. Let's go back. Yeah, okay. So I have done a lot of presentations, but I've never done my presentation in front of all EV users. So it's very exciting today. So as you see, as you know that, and thanks to you, our EV sales in the United States is increasing really fast. This is projection, and it will increase even faster next 10 years. So mostly for electric cars, electric buses, and energy storage system. Next page. So the state of California actually passed a new Senate bill, which defines 100% renewable electricity by 2045. This is actually a very amazing goal, because when we passed the Senate Bill 350, which defines 50% renewable electricity by 2030, I thought it was very aggressive. Now we have even more aggressive goal, 100% renewable electricity by 2045. As of now, believe it or not, we are approaching about 30% renewable electricity. So it's actually amazing, the top leading percentage in the country. But increasing renewable portion, especially the solar, causing a new problem. You see that the curve on the right side, it looks like a kind of dot. So this curve is called as a dot curve. This curve actually means net demand, electricity demand during daytime. So starting from midnight until next midnight. So net demand in 2012 was like 12 to 8, but it looks almost like flat. We use some electricity during daytime, similar amount was used during evening time. But rapidly increasing solar generation is causing a big problem. During daytime, as you know, that solar electricity is generated during only daytime while we have sun. So that decreases the net demand during daytime a lot. And as the sun sets, solar generation stops. But people come home and start using more electricity. That causes that requires utility company to ramp up their generation by a significant amount. It's already approaching an impossible amount of ramping up. So we need energy storage. Energy storage stores some energy during daytime and release it during evening time, so that we can go back, we can make our demand just like 2012 curve. So, but energy storage is very expensive. Your electric cars are nice, but very expensive. You know why? That's because of very expensive battery pack. Energy storage system uses exactly the same battery pack that you have in your electric car. So, next page. So our company mission, is to bring a safe, reliable, and cost-effective energy storage system to the market. We believe that this actually helps to bring down the cost by large amount. And at the same time, it is also beneficial for our environment. Next page. So our solutions, first we use second life EV batteries. So you all own electric cars or plug-in hybrids. The industry standard of battery lifetime is when you lose about 25% of your initial capacity, your battery pack is recommended to retire. Some may drive more, because 25% of losing 25% initial capacity means losing 25% of your driving range. This is acceptable for some people, not acceptable for somebody else. So anyway, the batteries are retired after they losing 25% of initial capacity. And most of the electric car companies still have no plan for their retired batteries. So our idea is let's use the batteries for energy storage system that will bring down the cost a lot. Second thing is we have our own very unique EMS system. When you connect the batteries in series, all the batteries are supposed to have same equal state of charge. If any batteries have different state of charge, that will end up with overcharging or over discharging, and it will damage the battery pack right away. So having a BMS system is very important to build an energy storage system. We also have our own very unique technology using artificial intelligence or machine learning technique to estimate state of health. Estimating state of health is the very first step of reusing the entire battery pack. For example, we performed a project sponsored by California Energy Commission to build a 350 kilowatt-hour energy storage system. We used a Nissan Leaf cells. So thankfully, Nissan USA sent us 1,000 Nissan Leaf cells. They look all alike, but they all have different state of health, meaning they degrade in different amounts. So we have to figure out the state of health of individual cells. And you know how long it takes? You know how we could figure out how we estimate the state of health? At the time, we had no idea what to do, so we just charge and discharge the battery. Each battery is full. So it took about 5 hours, because we charged at 0.5 speed. It took 2 hours to charge them, and another two hours to discharge them. So each battery cell took 5 hours to charge and discharge, and we had to do 1,000 times of that. So it took like about 6 months. After doing that, we figured that we do need a different technique to estimate state of health quickly. So we developed we tested different systems, algorithms. Now we have a new technique that can estimate state of health within about 5 minutes. So now when we get the batteries, we can estimate the state of health within about 5 to 10 minutes. That's one very great achievement we made in the past. Next page. This is I think the video for next page. Okay. So combining all our experiences, we developed our first prototype. We called it as a RAN 3030. So RAN 3030 is 30 kilowatt hour and 30 kilowatt system. So it has a power of 30 kilowatt to charge and discharge, and it has a 30 kilowatt hour capacity. This RAN 30 is consisted of 15 RAN assembly. I think I lost the picture in the middle. The RAN assembly is consisted of 6 Nissan modules and a BMS, designated BMS. For us, it's like a AA batteries. If you want to increase the voltages, we can connect them in the series. If you want to increase the current, we can connect them in parallel. So these 15 RAN assemblies constitute a RAN 30 system. Next page, please. Yeah, this is video. You can actually start it. Yeah. So RAN 30 is consisted of that RAN assembly. You see that the 2 RAN assemblies is getting into the cabinets. And we have 15 of them connected in series. So nominal voltage is about 650 volts. And we have a controller and contactors and inverters on the side. Next page. Our controller is a very important part of the system. The controller basically controls the BMS and inverter. Inverter is required because the battery is DC system, but our grid is AC system. So we have to convert sometimes from DC to AC to DC. And we also measure the building AC phase, which is measured by PMU. And the controller collects the data from solar forecast system and the load forecast system and the Kaiser utility data as well, and to control the contactors and inverters. So energy storage system should know how much energy will be used tomorrow. To say, especially our system now works with the solar panels. So, depending on the weather, for example, tomorrow, if it is raining tomorrow, we'll not have much solar production. Then this battery system can be charged using nighttime electricity as well. So our goal is anyway, reducing peak time electricity use. We call it as peak shifting or peak shaving. So we have demonstrated this capability through our product, so it's well complemented. Next page. This is an example of how the system is working with solar panel or HVAC system or EV charger. So HVAC and EV charger, they draw a lot of current power from the grid. That means your demand will increase rapidly in a short time. So the energy storage system can minimize the short time ramping up by releasing the energy from the energy storage system when they can do. This is one example. Some buildings, for example, nowadays, utility companies charge more cost when they use electricity during daytime. So we call it as a demand charge. So energy storage system, if you want, you can limit the use of electricity during daytime to cut the demand charge. It's one example. Next page. So, this is about the business side. Let's just skip it. Next page, please. Yeah, so one of the products, so that energy storage system is completed, and now we are working on developing a UPS system. So when we get the batteries, we first check the state of health, and we classify them into a few different categories. One, very nice batteries. One, okay batteries. One, this is too much degraded. We just send it back to the seller. So with the okay batteries, which batteries may have 50%, 60% state of health. This is probably not good for an ESS system because they don't have enough capacity. Then we are repurposing them now for UPS system. UPS is an uninterrupted power supply system. Whenever you have blackout or shortage of power, this kicks in providing the power for 1 hour or 2 hours. So most of the time, these UPS batteries are standing by. They're not charging, they're not discharging. They just wait for it to be used. Right? So using new batteries actually is such a waste. So batteries have, a state of health of 50%, still can serve this job for many years. So we have this, they require probably 10 times or less of cycling per year. So we are building this system using more degraded batteries, and the price will be about 1/5 of the new of the system that utilizes new batteries. It's very nice ideas. Okay, so next page. This is so everybody asks, how cheap is the system and how expensive other products. So here's a cost comparison with Tesla Power Pack or Power Wall and our products. Tesla Power Pack for the grid is about $475 per kilowatt hour. Or for a megawatt system, it will cost about $475,000. So our system compared to Tesla costs only $250,000, even with 20% profit. So that's very cheap. But our system also has shorter lifetime because we are using second life batteries. So obviously the lifetime is shorter. So we estimated that our battery life will be about 7 years compared to the new system, it's at 10 years. But the good thing about our system is we can replace the module because our red assembly is the only thing that should be replaced after the end of their life. So which costs much less than its initial cost. So if you replace the red assembly only after 7.5 years of use, it only costs about $100,000. Combining these two, so we can compare the battery cost or system cost per kilowatt hour per year. It's about less than 50% of Tesla Powerwall. Next page. So summarizing our core competencies of our company is we use second-life lithium-ion batteries from different electric cars. Now we have a prototype using Nissan Leaf cells, but we are also developing a prototype using Chevy Volt batteries, which is most abundant today. And so we have a lot of experiences in the prototyping system using different batteries. And we also have very innovative technologies One of the concerns of using second-life batteries is Electrify. Battery can fail. Okay, that can happen. It happened in my lab 3 times, and that gave us a hard time. So we have a nice pattern, very innovative pattern to suppress initial battery fire. Battery fails caused by a few different reasons. One of the main reasons is dendrite growth from electrode. It can happen in any batteries by high temperature or fusing or wrong management. So once it happens, batteries start to release its internal electrical energy in a short time, which causes a rapid ramping of the temperature. Once the temperature reaches a onset temperature of secondary reaction, then you're going to see the battery fire. So if your system somehow can detect the initial internal short circuiting and cool down the batteries, you can actually prevent battery fire. You cannot prevent battery failure, but you can prevent battery fire. So that's what we actually patent. We're actually in the process of patent, but that's one thing. And we also have a very innovative active balancing technology. Current balancing technology is just wasting energy to control the state of health, state of charge equally. But we have a new idea to reroute the energy of overcharged cell to undercharged cell. That's another idea. Yeah, we also have our proven energy management system to control all these parameters. That's our core competencies. Next page. That's our financial plan. Okay, next page. Yeah, this is our achievement and roadmap for the future. So I started the first project in 2009, and we developed a small energy storage system for the house. It was a 12 kilowatt-hour system. It worked very well. And years of research. And in 2015, we started a new project with CEC, and now we completed a 350 kilowatt system with all the controllers together, and we are about to finalize the installation of the system into a real microgrid on campus. So that will work with a 220 kilowatt-hour solar panel, which over-generates during daytime. So we store some energy during daytime and discharge it during evening time. We also participate in Kaiser energy market. So as you may know that we can now even trade electricity. So that is happening at Kaiser. So we're doing that. And we finished our product. Actually, I started this company a year ago in January. Okay. Yeah. So now we're about to expand our company to start to mass produce the product. Actually, one of the reasons I came here today, if you are interested in investing in our company, please let me know. There are some opportunities to make some money in the near future. This is it today.
Yeah, I think we're short of time, right? Well, yeah, we can take a question. Any questions?
Maybe you said this and I missed it, but what is the scale of your market? Is it like a power company, a garage, a municipality? Just the size of your market, really.
Next. So we are focusing on utility company, utility level, or building level energy storage system. So probably the utility company or some energy companies are our target to sell products. So we'll probably focus on 200 to 1 megawatt-hour system, which is too big for a small house. But later in the future, we'll also develop a small system for a house. Still much cheaper than new battery system.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and have Guy come up and give us our update on the Electrify America with Cycle 2 plan.
Thanks, Peter. You know, as Dr. Park was saying earlier, it's the first time that he was talking in front of a large number of EV owners, EV enthusiasts. And it can be a little intimidating when you're out there. There's probably people in the audience that know as much about some of this as you do. So I know, as a matter of fact, that tonight on my topic, there are several people in the audience who do know quite a bit more about what I'm going to be talking about. So I'm going to rely on them to keep me on track and make sure I tell you no lies. If they weren't here, I wouldn't give you any guarantee. All right, now, good. Works from this range. All right, how many people have heard of Dieselgate and VW and what they're doing? Part of the outcome was the Green Cities program in Sacramento. Was chosen to be the site for the Green Cities program. That great achievement by Sacramento. Very exciting for $44 million worth of electric clean and shared transportation projects going on here. It's all from the settlement of the court settlement from the VW and California, the CARB, and the EPA. If you, these things were required essentially by the court system for VW through its now subsidiary Electrify America to make some headway and to try to. There's a number of pieces of it, but some of it's to compensate for what they did, others just to move the market forward. So we're very grateful to see that happening. And we're now at the second cycle. This is $800 million for California for EV adoption and EV acceleration. That's going to be over 10 years. They did the first cycle 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago. They've now put the proposal together to present to CARB on what the second cycle will look like. Now, I've been told that if you give a presentation, that you should introduce yourself. You should have a picture when you introduce yourself. I know a number of you already know me, but there are some new faces in the group. So my wife said this is the best picture I've ever taken, so we should go with that. And she's not encouraged me to make any changes to that. But as George said earlier at the beginning, I'm involved in the Sacramento EV organization for quite some time and also work at the national level. In our family, we've got quite a few EVs, so we're getting quite a bit of experience to be able to share with you. In fact, I'm the only person that's actually taken an electric car all the way to Alaska, and that's in front of the Alaska oil pipeline. So, those of you with Model 3s, this is a fun event. I only had 260 mile range on my Model S. You guys got over 300, so you ought to do it. All right, going forward. Some of you may have seen this. Let's see if we can get it to play for us. If you're watching, raise your hand if you've seen this before.
Instant acceleration. Electric cars are more fun to drive and more affordable than ever. Electric cars are here. Plug into the present.
Well, this was put together by Electrify America for their cycle 1. So let's look at what's going on with their second cycle. All right. So actually, a moment again on cycle 1. If you look at it, they chose, I believe it's 6 metropolitan areas. That you can see Sacramento being one of those, so they would start building out the infrastructure and mobility, electric mobility. In addition to that, they would replace fast chargers, DC fast chargers on the corridor. So you see the diamonds there are the targets for placing the DC fast chargers. The first one in the country broke ground or actually it was just turned on southern. Let's see, that was I think Southern California, just within the last week. But it takes a while, as pointed out earlier by Jennifer, that it takes a while to get these things actually in the ground running. So we'll start coming on, you'll see a steady stream of these coming on board. You'll So 160 sites. They're also they're not the older, necessarily the older fast chargers. They're looking at some of the newer 150 kilowatts, and some of them looking at being able to go well over that. Now here's kind of a graphic overview of what their program looks like. On the left, you'll see that it has charging, metro charging, and corridor charging, and then some new opportunities that are going to be explained, that I'll explain that they've never gotten into before. I won't touch on everything, but I'll hit some of the key interesting areas of investment. And then on the right, the marketing, the educational outreach to encourage people to move into electric vehicles and to start using the charging systems. So this is the cycle of the investment, where the dollars are being spent. You can see most of them are going to be around what they call the metro chargers. The first cycle is along the corridors. The second cycle is much less going to go around, go within the metro organizations, by shopping malls, where people will stop at the 12 times advance of the fast charge situation. Also will be lined up well with the apartments and condominiums, townhouses and such that don't have the ability to charge at home. Then there's a few other areas that they're touching it, that they're touching on. I'll hit those in a little bit. Two of those 6 metro areas are adding 2 more. One not far from up in the Santa Rosa area, and then one down in Southern California. Now, what they're doing in all these areas, they're looking at having a number of what I call plazas, charging plazas. So not an individual charging station or dispenser, but a plaza that has several of them there. Typically, you'll see they'll have 3 to 10 dispensers at each one of these stations, or these plazas, and the average being around 5.
Don't forget Santa Cruz.
Don't forget what?
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz. Oh yeah, the third one. There were 3 new ones. I'm sorry. Thank you. So much better having people help you out. So for those of you that have fast charging now, they're both CCS and Chavo. Going forward in the Sacramento area, there'll be about 1 to 3 plazas being installed. Here, they won't actually, because there was so much that was done as part of the Green Cities and the Cycle 1 inside the Sacramento area, these are going to be a little bit more on the periphery to support Sacramento drivers when they leave the immediate metro area. And then in the Bay Area, so you get down the Bay Area, 18 to 29 plazas. Then along the corridors, there'll be some expansion on the corridors of the secondary corridors. You see along there, some 99 between Modesto and Fresno. And then I think there's 120 and I can't remember the other highway name back to the east of that. So up there, we'll get some additional corridor support up here in the North State. And they're spacing these things out along the corridors to be with less than 120 miles, but also taking into account elevation changes. So if you're going uphill, they'll place it closer together. I don't know how it works if you're going to go downhill with any moving further apart. I'll leave that technical problem for others. Okay. So most of them will have 4 chargers. 2 will be 150 kilowatts, and 2 will be the potential of 350 kilowatts, which is mind-blowing. Is that true, roughly? Okay, did I get any knowledge? So that's pretty incredible. Right. Now you see all these numbers of all the charges coming along the corridors and the metro areas. It all sounds good, but it's not this week, it's not this month, it's not this quarter. It takes a while to go through the full process. So they're expecting to start really having them actually up and running toward the last quarter of next year. So it'll take about a year for the first set to be up and going, and there'll be a continual rollout after that. And the big thing that we're so happy that they're not overlooking, and that's maintenance. Has anybody gone to a DC fast charger that was down and didn't know it? I see a couple, that's good. Not very many, but when you if it ever happens to you, it's a painful situation because you may not have a lot of charge to get to the next DC fast charge. So they're doing quite a bit of work to make sure that there's a strong maintenance program for at least 10 years. Okay, something interesting and new. They determined that for a lot of people, it's not just the cost of buying the charger at home was prohibitive, but when you add to it the installation cost, the permit cost, all those things together just made it prohibitively expensive for many people. So Electrify America will have a program that will essentially, I think it comes like a loan, to loan you the money and let you pay it out over some period of time while you're saving money by not having to buy gas. The other aspect of it, those will be set up to be able to use your home Wi-Fi. The interesting thing is that they will then allow, if you opt for it, allow you to shift the charge at night earlier or later, depending upon the need of the utility. So if the utility says, we'll give you a little cheaper rate if you wait for an hour or two, or if you charge now, we have excess power, charge now, we'll drop the rate. They will do this, what's called demand response. They will shift that charging of all the people who signed up for these chargers, shift that around, and the utility will then essentially pay Electrify America, which turns around compensates the EV owners. So kind of an exciting new program to shift the load on the grid and get the money back in our pockets. Autonomous vehicle charging. So how many people know what the difference is going to be when autonomous vehicles come out? What the different demands are on charging? Do you know? Anybody have an idea what the differences are charging an autonomous vehicle or a regular electric vehicle? Neither do they. Right? So what they're doing, what they say over the next year or two, this stuff is coming on pretty quick. We want to set some money aside to do some pilots and try to figure out what needs to be done. Because it is real, it is coming, so let's not have a blind eye to it. Let's really embrace it and try some pilots. So that's kind of, I'm pretty impressed that they picked that bold stance. On the marketing side, all this has been talking about infrastructure, which is important to us. We've already got the cars. But for us to encourage our neighbors and friends to buy the cars, the marketing and the awareness is still critically important. The first cycle that we talked about, the first $200 million, part of that went to building general awareness, the advertising we just saw. They want you to start being aware of the electric cars and then start getting it as a consideration. To the point, say, maybe I'll think about that. The second cycle, they want to move more from consideration to let you then actually do it, get you to do a test drive. And we all have that experience of saying butts and seats makes all the difference. So that's a shift in where the outreach and the marketing aspect is going. And I think that's what I'll wrap up with. I'll leave it with any questions you might have. And go from there. So any questions?
Others, could you roll back the slides to the show of the path? That one. Okay. So, by chance, is that Highway 49?
I don't believe so.
So, what this almost looks like history repeating itself. Long ago, there were maps similar to this for course changing stations, course refresh stations coming into California. Here we have something similar happening again, except it's north power.
So, first of all, if you have any comments or suggestions for Electrify America, for there's still a cycle 3 and a cycle 4, feed that back into them. They've got a website to take requests and take suggestions, and very actively look at that. Second, with this, when they chose these secondary corridors, they were also paying attention to the ones that are already being planned out by like the CEC, which is I know going up 49. So that may have adjusted, may cause them to adjust their plan not to duplicate other work going feedback back to Electrify America, the best way to do that is really the online forum. Not forum, but the online website.
And I guess one thing, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Mark's having a hearing tomorrow and Friday on this, right?
Friday.
Just Friday? Okay. So it's not too late to make comments on cycle two. If you can get them to the car before
The
then.
site is, what's the name of the site?
Well, for our site, you just go to,
Well, the Electrify America.
Electrifyamerica.com is their website.
But if somebody wants to provide comment on Cycle 2, then they can just email me directly. And it's mark.williams@arb.ca.gov. Mark.williams@ARB for Air Resources Board.ca California.gov for what I do.
Thanks, Mark.
And if you want to just give it to Electrify America directly, just go to electrifyamerica.com.
Perfect. So we're right on time. 7:05, so we're ready for the next speaker.
Hello everybody, my name is Abe from Jaguar of Sacramento, and I am going to introduce you to the future of Jaguar. It's the iPace right here we have. To start off, we're going to compare it with the e-tron and the Model X. We compare our vehicle to the Model X. As you can see, we have more foot-pound torque, and they all come with dual motors, and all-wheel drive as well. I'll take questions on this right now, so I don't have to go back. Anyway, these questions. Yes, 75D. Also, the price is different as well if you would pay attention to the, all the way to the bottom. Any questions on this slide?
What are some of the highlights that you think would draw our attention to?
As far as the highlights goes, I would definitely look at the price point, at what we're priced at coming into the EV line of where we headed with this, and this is just the beginning for Jaguar. We're, as far as range goes, we're at 240, a little bit higher than that, but as soon as you start driving, you always want to keep your pedal all the way to the ground. 512 foot-pound torque, it is really fun to drive this car. It's amazing. We'll keep moving along. Anybody has a question? Go back to that one. Oh, do you have a question?
Are you making something that's full size for like a 6 or 7 seater? There's only 5.
I'm
Do
sorry.
you have a 6 or 7 seat version?
Oh, unfortunately not. It's only 5. Just 5 seats for now. And a closer look at the iPace. So we have magnetic motors. They're connected to the axial planetary gearing, which we have 2 motors. They're really far apart, as you can see in the vehicle, that the wheels are actually positioned in all 4 corners. There's no gas one right there. So that creates more room on the inside. It might look shorter from the outside, but actually inside there's tons of room in there. Next up, pouch batteries. We use lithium ion by LG. We use those batteries. There's about 432 pouches right in the middle. So underneath the seats, they're all laid out. As far as battery health warranty goes, industry standard, 8-year, 100,000. Performance, like I mentioned before, 394 horsepower, 504 foot-pound torque, which is a lot. One thing with Jag is its performance and comfort over everything else.
What's 0 to 60 times?
I'm sorry?
What's 0 to 60?
0 to 60, 4.5 seconds. Top speed, 124. And then weight just under 5,000 pounds, 4,784. Now for the battery, it's 90 kilowatts, charge time on a level 2 charger, 10.1 hours from 0 to 80, 100%, 4.9. Now on 100 kilowatt, it'll be 40 minutes. Moving on, the price, as you can see, starts at $69.5 for the base model, and then moves along to the first edition, which you see a lot. It's very unique as far as the interior goes, exterior. You can get many. There's 2 different packages. There's a black pack and also a carbon fiber package as well, for a more aggressive styling. And then features. I'll go over this one really quickly. It goes really in depth with what the vehicle has, with as far as torque vectoring by braking. What that means is when you're taking those turns, right angle turns, going through windy roads, it handles amazingly. You don't even have to let off all the way. It's just one pedal drive. As I'm sure most of you are familiar with regenerative braking. It's amazing. Next up, active air suspension. We have 3 levels, just like the Range Rovers. So you have your access height, which everybody noticed when I was bringing it in, that was all the way high. That was the off-road. And you have your access, which is all the way low, and in the middle, that's normal height. There we go. Then moving forward with the heavy traffic braking, we have something called the Q Assist. A lot of vehicles have it now. And it is really great. Basically, the car dabs to the car in front of it and follows it. You set your cruise control. Moving on with the active vanes. When the battery gets hot, there's cooling vents all around at the bottom on the sides where it just opens up and cools the pouches. It is also liquid cooled, yes. And as far as preserving range, if your passengers are sitting in the vehicle and they don't have their seat belt on, they would not get air conditioning. Yes. In order to be safe, you need your seat belt. Eco mode, the vehicle reads how you're driving on the freeway and if you're going on those long trips. If you throw it in eco mode, it preserves your range for, as everybody knows, EV cars are meant to be driven more on the street versus on the highway, and we're going on where we could actually use it on the highway versus on the streets. And the iPace is ready. Actually, this one right here will be ready for test drive at Jaguar of Sacramento. It's located 2052 Fulton Avenue. And it's on order basis. Unfortunately, you just can't come in and buy one. You'll have to place an order. But the bright side on that is you will have your own custom car in about 4 months. And it takes 4 to 5 months, and every single iPace on the road is going to be unique because, of course, you've made it yourself. And here's pictures. And we use the J1772 charger. How does this picture look? Electric and water. Whoa. It's gonna hyper up the engine. And I'll take questions time. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. So it's 2 inches from what it is right now. I believe it's complete. It's a great question. So it's 2 inches at the time it goes up. Any other questions?
Okay, so does it have an option for fast charging like CCS or Jaguar?
It has a rapid charger, a DC rapid charger.
CCS. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, yes.
Is Jaguar planning on having any kind of free charging programs like Nissan or Tesla or anything else?
Unfortunately not. We use a third party. So there's an app called ChargePoint where you can, everybody's familiar with it, and it's all in there. No free charging, unfortunately.
Okay, so any more? One.
What kind of warranty?
5 years, 60,000 miles.
On everything, battery, motors, also?
That's all 8 and 100.
The battery is 8 and 100.
California law requires the powertrain to basically have that 8/100 at least.
That's the minimum, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
at
what
least.
they extended more than that.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, we have the vehicle here, so if we don't have any further questions, please come on up and fondle, at least check it out. Maybe he won't like us to fondle it. Guy, where are you? Guy? Guy, do we have any DVDs to give out?
No, sorry. We're going to have, hopefully that Chris gets here.
What can I say? My mea culpa. Okay, so again, if we can get the room lights back up for sharper sort of visibility of the vehicles, we've got a few more minutes here before we have to run everybody out. But again, let's have a round of applause for the California Auto Museum. As I keep saying, this is my absolutely favorite venue. It's a place where the next evolution of vehicles meets the past, and it can't get any better than that. Thank you, everyone.
So we have, I just saw the number today, we have, between public vehicles and fast chargers, we have 15,000 chargers. Very significant. But support the vehicle, we need that $1 million. So we here. Ways to go. There's a good way. I did a lot of swing for it is. The thing is, it's beautiful, but it, this one will. Yeah, it's yes, they do.
Have your eye on one?
Yes. Yep. I got another one coming in.
Like the target type top that you can pull off.
Oh, no, this is a power top that folds
Oh,
up.
it is a power top.
It actually comes
Oh,
up.
it comes back in like the, yes, like
This flips open